My husband, Daniel, and I had been married for 3 years. To everyone else, we looked perfect. An elegant couple with a stable life and a bright future. Daniel was a rising businessman, and I worked quietly in my family's company, blending in as an ordinary employee. What he never knew was that my family owned the company, and several others. I never told him because I wanted to know if he loved me, not my wealth. I didn't want another person who saw only the zeros in my family's bank accounts. I wanted sincerity, something priceless. But one morning I learned just how wrong I had been. When I returned home, my suitcases were already at the door. Daniel stood inside with a cold, almost triumphant expression. "I'm done," he said flatly. "You bring nothing to this marriage. You earn almost nothing. I deserve someone who matches my level." His words hit like a slap. "Daniel, what are you talking about? Yesterday everything was fine." He gave a short, cruel laugh. "I found out what your coworkers think of you. A nobody. A tiny paycheck. I won't be married to someone who lowers my status. Get out. And no, I'm not giving you any money. You can take care of yourself." He slammed the door behind me. I walked away with my suitcases, not crying, not shaking, just hollow. When truth hits that hard, even tears hesitate. For the next 3 days, I stayed in a quiet hotel, not wanting to go back to my family estate. I needed time to breathe, to think, to accept that the man I loved cared only for wealth, not warmth. Only for status, not sincerity. But life has a poetic way of returning what you give. 3 days later, a newspaper headline caught my attention. Daniel's company was preparing to sign a massive partnership deal, one that would supposedly secure his career for years. What he didn't know was that the company he was desperate to partner with belonged to my family. That morning my father called. Absolutely. When I walked into the meeting room, Daniel's face drained of all color. What are you doing here?" he choked. I took my seat at the head of the table. "Allow me to reintroduce myself. I'm the CEO of the company you're hoping to partner with." Silence. His eyes trembled. His hands shook against the table. "This can't be real," he whispered. "It's very real," I replied calmly. "And the funniest part? You divorced me because you thought I was poor." The other executives exchanged confused glances. Daniel opened his mouth to speak, but I raised a hand. "I have reviewed your proposal," I continued, "and your company lacks the transparency and integrity we require from partners. Therefore, the deal is rejected." The words landed like a hammer. His future, his pride, his entire plan collapsed in front of everyone. As I stood to leave, he finally found his voice. "Please wait. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have. Just give me another chance." I didn't know. I looked at him one last time. "That's the point, Daniel. You didn't want to know. You cared about money more than the person standing in front of you. Love isn't measured in dollars but character." And with that I walked away, no tears, no regret. Because the truth was simple. Sometimes the person who throws you away believes they're winning, but in the end they lose the most. 3 months passed after the disastrous meeting. The day Daniel watched his future fall apart with a single sentence from me. I had returned to my family estate, slowly healing, rediscovering myself, and learning to breathe without the weight of disappointment on my chest. I expected Daniel to fade from my life like a bad memory, but life rarely chooses the easy path. One afternoon, as I stepped out of a charity event, I saw him. Daniel stood by the entrance, dressed in a wrinkled suit that looked like it had seen too many sleepless nights. He wasn't the polished man I once knew. His eyes were tired, his shoulders slumped. He took a shaky breath when he saw me. "Sephora, please." I didn't move. He walked closer, too close. "I lost everything," he said. "My investors pulled out after the partnership collapsed. My reputation, it's gone. I know I don't deserve anything from you, but at least hear me out." I watched him silently. The old me would have broken down, forgiven him out of love. But the new me understood something powerful. Not everyone deserves a second chance at the heart they broke. Daniel swallowed hard. "I'm sorry for how I treated you. I was shallow, blinded by my own ego. I thought money defined worth, and I was wrong. I know it now." He looked down. "I don't expect your forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I'm trying to be better." His voice cracked. Without you, everything feels meaningless. For a moment, I saw a flicker of sincerity. But sometimes sincerity comes too late. I spoke softly but firmly. I appreciate your apology. But the pain you caused, it taught me something valuable. I don't need someone who loves me only when they think I have nothing. His shoulders fell. So this is it, he whispered. Yes, I said. This is closure. I walked away as he stood frozen. For the first time, I was the one leaving. I returned to the boardroom with a sharper mind, a stronger heart. Work kept me busy, but something unexpected began unfolding. A new investor had joined one of our ventures, Elliot Hayes. Brilliant, calm, effortlessly kind. The type of man whose presence didn't demand attention but naturally drew it. Unlike Daniel, he didn't try to impress me. He listened. He asked how my day was. He remembered the small things that mattered. One evening, after reviewing project proposals, he walked me to my car. You know, he said with a smile, I've worked with dozens of CEOs, but none who carry themselves the way you do. And how is that? I asked. Like someone who broke, but rebuilt herself stronger than before. The words hit deeper than I expected. He wasn't flirting. He wasn't trying to charm me. He saw me. A week later, I received a message from a former colleague of Daniel's. Thought you should know. Daniel is leaving the city, starting over somewhere else. For a long moment I stared at my phone. There was no satisfaction. No victory. Only peace. Because sometimes the best revenge is realizing you no longer need one. That night, as I prepared for bed, my phone buzzed with a new notification. It was a message from Elliot. Dinner tomorrow? Not business. Just two people enjoying a meal. I smiled genuinely, effortlessly. For the first time in a long while, the future felt like something to look forward to. Days turned into weeks, and the world I lived in began to shift. Quietly, softly, but undeniably. Work was steady, my responsibilities grew, and for the first time in a long time, I felt grounded in myself. Not because of duty or expectation, but because I'd finally stepped into the life I was meant to live, not the one I had shrunk myself into for someone else. And somewhere along that path, Elliot Hayes kept appearing. Not loudly, not insistently, but consistently. He showed up like a gentle sunrise, slow but certain. The evening of our dinner, I found myself standing in front of the mirror longer than I intended. I wasn't trying to impress him, I told myself that, but something in me wanted to honor the moment. When Elliot arrived to pick me up, he didn't stare or linger. He smiled warmly, the kind of smile that told you he was genuinely glad to see you. We drove to a quiet restaurant overlooking the city. No paparazzi, no noise, no pretentiousness. Just warm lights, soft music, and the calm hum of people living their lives. During dinner, he didn't talk about status or success. He didn't ask about my wealth, my family, or the whispers surrounding Daniel's downfall. Instead, he asked about my dreams, my childhood, the places I wanted to see someday. You're strong, he said at one point, but you're also gentle. People don't realize they can be both. His words stole a breath from my chest. Because for years, Daniel made me believe that gentleness was weakness and strength was arrogance. But Elliot saw them as coexisting threads of the same person. When he drove me home, he didn't try to touch my hand or pull me close. Instead, he stopped the car and turned to me with a sincerity that made everything inside me go still. You don't have to answer anything now, he said. But I'd like to see you again. Not as a CEO. Not as an heiress. Just you. That night, as I watched him leave, I realized something quietly revolutionary. I felt safe. And I hadn't felt safe with someone in a long time. But the past, even when buried, has a way of scratching at the door. A few days later, I received a letter. Not an email, not a text, but a physical letter, folded neatly with my name written in handwriting I recognized immediately. Daniel. I sat with it for nearly half an hour before I opened it. His handwriting shook across the page. I'm leaving. Not just the city, my entire life here. I thought I could rebuild, but everywhere I go I see reminders of what I destroyed. The company, the marriage. For a long moment I just sat there, feeling an ache I didn't expect. Not for the relationship and not for him, but for the version of myself who had once believed that was the love she deserved. I folded the letter and put it away, not out of longing but closure. The next few weeks were peaceful. Meetings, projects, quiet evenings spent reading or strolling through the garden outside my family home. And then one afternoon, Elliot appeared at my office door with a bouquet of white peonies. Elegant, soft, fragrant. "I didn't know your favorite flower," he said. So I guessed. He guessed right. He took me to a rooftop that overlooked the entire city. Lights glowing like fallen stars beneath us. There was a small table set, nothing extravagant but thoughtful. He had even brought a blanket in case it got cold. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. And somewhere in the middle of laughter and stories and shared silence, he reached for my hand. Unlike Daniel's cold, evaluating touch, Elliot's was warm, patient, asking not taking. "May I?" he asked. I nodded. And that simple moment, fingers intertwining under the soft city lights, felt more intimate, more true, than any grand gesture ever could. Months passed and the bond between us thickened, not with fiery intensity, but with steady warmth. He became my partner in business discussions, my companion during charity events, my calm in chaotic mornings, and my laughter during tired evenings. He never once treated me like a trophy, a ladder, or a possession. Instead, he treated me like a person with depth, with stories, with heart. One evening, as we walked along a quiet lakeside, Elliot stopped. He took a slow breath, the wind tugging softly at his hair. "You know," he said, "I once believed love was supposed to be dramatic, explosive. But you showed me something different." He looked into my eyes. "You showed me that love can be peace. And I don't ever want to lose that." My heart warmed, not with desperate need. "Then you won't," I said. He pulled me into his arms, gentle and firm, and the world felt still around us. I didn't choose this life because it was easy. I chose it because I finally understood my worth. I didn't choose this love because it was loud. I chose it because it was honest. And somewhere far away in another city, Daniel was starting over. But so was I, only my beginning wasn't born from loss. It was born from clarity, strength, and the courage to walk away from what once broke me. In the end, I didn't win because I was wealthy. I won because I remembered who I was. And I finally accepted the love that saw it too. For a long while, life settled into a gentle rhythm, the kind that didn't demand attention but wrapped itself around you like soft dusk light. Elliot and I grew closer, not through grand declarations or dramatic moments, but through the small, almost invisible threads that tie two lives together. Morning coffee shared before sunrise, silent car rides where our hands found each other without thinking, late-night conversations that drifted from business plans to personal fears. He made space for me, not just in his world but in his heart. Months passed, seasons changed, and with each passing day I felt myself stepping further away from the woman who had once been thrown out of her own home with 2 suitcases and a broken heart. I had rebuilt, not out of revenge but out of rediscovery. Eventually, my life felt like a garden I had tended with my own hands, healthy, flourishing, peaceful. But gardens, too, are vulnerable to unexpected storms. One rainy afternoon, my secretary rushed into my office. "Ms. Hale, there's someone asking to see you. He says it's urgent." I glanced up from my documents. "Who is it?" She hesitated. "He didn't give a name. But he looks unwell." Curiosity and caution battled inside me, but I finally nodded. "Send him in." The door opened slowly, and there he was. Daniel. He was a ghost of the man I once knew. Thinner, paler, hair slightly disheveled, eyes hollowed out from sleepless nights and too many regrets. His once expensive suit hung loose on his frame, the fabric worn down. It was as if life had scraped him raw. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he whispered, "Sephora." I hadn't expected to ever see him again, much less like this. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. He took a breath that shook. "I shouldn't have come, but you're the only person I have left." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. He continued, words tumbling out like stones spilling from a broken bag. I moved away, tried to rebuild, tried to become someone better. But everything I touched fell apart. I thought I could outrun what I did to you. But I couldn't. Every mistake, every selfish choice, every moment I made you feel small. It followed me. He ran a shaky hand through his hair. "I'm not here to ask for another chance with you. I know I lost that forever. But I wanted to apologize, not because I hope it will fix anything, but because I finally understand the depth of the damage I caused. There was silence for a long moment, the kind that's heavy but honest. I spoke softly. I forgave you a long time ago, Daniel. Not for you but for myself. Carrying anger would have only tied me to the past. He looked up at me with something like relief and then grief. I heard about you and Elliot, he said quietly. He's a good man. I'm glad you found someone who sees your worth. It surprised me how much sincerity threaded through his voice. He took a slow step back toward the door. I just needed you to know I'm sorry. Truly. And I'm leaving again somewhere far. Don't worry. You won't hear from me after this. Then he paused, opened the door halfway, and turned one last time. You didn't deserve the pain I gave you, and you'll never know how deeply I regret it. And then he walked out, not stumbling, not defeated, just released. As though speaking those words set him free from a weight he had carried for too long. When the door shut, I let out a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. It felt like the last piece of a broken chapter finally settling into place. That evening, I went to meet Elliot at the lakeside path where we often walked. When he saw me, he immediately noticed something in my expression. What happened? He asked gently. So I told him everything. He listened, holding my hand, letting me speak without interruption. When I finished, he brushed a strand of hair behind my ear. I'm proud of you, he said softly. For what? I asked. For facing your past without letting it pull you back. For choosing peace over resentment. That takes strength. His voice, warm and steady, wrapped around me like a promise. And for the record, he added with a shy smile, I'm not going anywhere. I leaned into him, feeling that familiar sense of safety, that calm certainty, that quiet joy. As we stood there, listening to the gentle ripple of water against the lakeside, I realized something profound. Closure doesn't come when the past disappears. Closure comes when the past no longer has the power to define you. Daniel had been a chapter. Painful, necessary one. But Elliot, he was beginning to look like a whole new book. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid to turn the page. That night when I returned home, the sky was clear. City lights climbed into the darkness, and as I stood by my window looking at my own reflection, I felt something shift. Same face, same eyes, but it was as if someone inside me had quietly stepped into a new place. The weight that had echoed in the back of my mind for years had finally gone still. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Elliot. Let me know when you get home. I just want to know you're okay. I smiled to myself. I'm okay, I typed back. Truly. After sending the message, I sat on the edge of the bed. Daniel's words drifted somewhere at the edges of my mind, but they no longer hurt. It wasn't pain anymore. It was like looking at an old photograph. Something that once shaped you deeply, yet no longer held any power over the person you've become. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains and woke me with a sense of calm I hadn't felt in years. I made my coffee and stepped onto the balcony. A thin layer of mist hovered over the lake. The silence was so gentle it felt like even the universe was paying respect to new beginnings. My phone rang again. Elliot, do you have plans today? He asked, his voice soft as always. I don't think so, I said. Why? Will you come somewhere with me? There's something I want to show you. Curious, I agreed. An hour later, he arrived to pick me up. Even the breeze that brushed against my face through the open window felt lighter somehow. Elliot held my hand as he drove, and we didn't speak much. Our silences had always known how to hold a conversation. He took us out of the city, toward the north side of the lake. Eventually, we turned onto a narrow path that cut between tall pine trees. When the car finally stopped, the only sounds were the birds and the rustling needles overhead. I've always wanted to bring you here, he said. I was waiting for a moment when you'd feel ready. We walked together through the trees, sunlight spilling through the branches in golden patches on the ground. After a few minutes, we reached a small rise overlooking the entire lake. The view was breathtaking. Elliot reached quietly into his pocket, and in that moment I understood. This view wasn't just a view. This place, he said, watching me carefully, is far from all the places where your past hurt you, and if you're ready, I want to build our future here. My heart beat with the same rhythm as the rippling lake below. Elliot reached quietly into his pocket. But instead of that warm rush of expectation I thought I'd feel, something else flickered in his eyes, something I couldn't yet name. His hand hesitated, closed, then lowered. He stepped back from me. "There's something I need to tell you before anything else," he said, voice low, strained. "Something I should have told you weeks ago." A coldness slid down my spine. "What is it?" I asked. Elliot exhaled, looking past me, as if the trees behind my shoulder could give him courage. "When Daniel showed up, it made me realize I haven't been honest with you. And that's not fair. Not now. Not ever." My heart tightened. "Elliot, just say it." He finally met my eyes. "There was a night," he said. "A stupid, impulsive, selfish night. Before you and I were official, but after we'd already started becoming us. I told myself it didn't matter because we hadn't defined anything yet, but the truth is, I knew exactly what I was doing." My breath caught. The world tilted just a little. "With who?" I whispered. He swallowed hard. "Her name is Mara. Someone I used to see. She reached out. I should have ignored it. I didn't." The silence that followed was not gentle. It was sharp, slicing through every steady promise he had ever made me feel. "When were you going to tell me?" I asked. "I thought I could bury it," he admitted. "Pretend it happened before we were real. But then Daniel came back and I saw how much honesty means to you. And I knew I couldn't carry this into our future." Our future. The words felt suddenly fragile, like glass that had started to crack under its own weight. I stepped back, needing space, air, something. "Elliot, you let me stand here thinking you wanted to build a life with me, while hiding this." He flinched, the guilt heavy on his face. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. He stopped, voice shaking. I wrapped my arms around myself, the view of the lake blurring at the edges. "You had a choice," I said quietly. "And you chose her. Even for one night. You chose her." "I know," he whispered. "And it's the worst mistake I've made." I didn't say anything. Couldn't. The wind shifted through the pines, carrying the faint scent of cold water and endings. For a moment neither of us moved. Then Elliot reached into his pocket again, slowly this time, and instead of a ring, he pulled out a small folded letter. He placed it gently on the wooden railing between us. "This is for you," he said. "I wrote it the night I realized I couldn't keep lying. Read it whenever you're ready. Or don't. I'll respect whatever you choose." And for the first time since I had known him, he stepped back, not with confidence, not with quiet certainty, but with fear. Fear of losing me. Fear of what he had broken. Fear of a truth that could not be undone. I didn't pick up the letter. Not at first. I stared at it, the soft fold, the careful edges, as if it were something dangerous. Maybe it was. Maybe it held a truth I wasn't ready to face. Maybe it held another lie I didn't want to swallow. Elliot waited, barely breathing. "I need a minute," I managed. He nodded, stepping farther back, giving me space but not turning away. Not yet. Maybe he hoped I would reach for the letter. Maybe he hoped something in me would soften. I didn't. Instead, I kept my eyes on the lake. The water was calm, too calm, as if mocking the storm rising inside me. "You said it happened before we were official," I said, my voice rough. "But you knew what we were becoming." "Yes," he whispered. "And you still did it." I did. The honesty was almost cruel in its simplicity. I finally looked at him. Really looked. He wasn't the steady man I thought he was, not right now. His shoulders were tense, his jaw tight, his eyes raw with remorse. But the pain in his expression didn't soften mine. He nodded slowly, eyes shining with regret he didn't bother hiding. "I'm not asking you to understand," he said. "Only to know that it meant nothing. It was a mistake made by a man who didn't think he deserved you yet." The words hit me in a place I didn't expect. "Don't make this about worth," I snapped. "You made a choice. Not from insecurity. From desire. From impulse. From selfishness." Elliot opened his mouth, then closed it again. He had no defense, just guilt. I picked up the letter at last. It felt heavier than paper. "I'm going home," I said. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No," I answered instantly. Then softer. "No, Elliot. Not right now. He bowed his head like he expected that. Maybe he deserved that. I walked past him, the pine needles crunching beneath my shoes. I didn't look back, even though I could feel his gaze following me with every step. The walk to the car felt endless. When I finally slid into the passenger seat and closed the door, the silence hit me like a wave. I held the letter in my lap, staring at my own trembling hands. I didn't cry. Not yet. The tears were there, waiting, building, but shock held them back, suspended like glass about to shatter. When Elliot finally reached the car, he didn't start it right away. He sat there, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing holding him together. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. I didn't respond. Sorry was a word I had heard before, too many times, too easily, from men who only remembered it after the damage was done. Instead, I looked out the window as he began driving. The forest blurred, the lake disappeared behind the trees, and the place that should have been a beginning felt like the edge of something breaking. Halfway down the road, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I opened it. One sentence.